Greetings, fellow singularitarians and fellow philosophers, for my small little series, maybe not so small, where we want to read the book, The Singularity is Near from Ray Kurzweil, together. So I'm a philosopher, got my PhD from the United States. Right now I'm working at a university in China, and I'm very interested into the topic, the future of the singularity. Now, we see here right in the title, The Singularity is Near, that Ray Kurzweil gives it a quite religious connotation. We know the normal words that say, the end is near. But here it's not the end that is near, it's the singularity. So what is the singularity? And does it have a positive or does it have a negative connotation? Generally spoken, the singularity is the idea that computers supersede human intelligence. At least that's the marker when the human biological tradition will end and where something else is going to occur. What that is, we cannot yet say, but it will be exponentially improved with regard to the current state that we have now. Is that dystopian or utopian? I don't know. Many people are afraid. Ray Kurzweil is certainly not afraid. So is it about us becoming the Borg like in Star Trek? Is it really just an assimilating force that is directed towards us? Ray Kurzweil is a computer scientist. He works, as far as I'm informed right now, for Google to create the technologies of the future. And he says, as we gradually learn to harness the optimal computing power of matter, our intelligence will spread through the universe at the speed of light, or even exceeding the speed of light, eventually leading to a sublime universe-wide awakening. So we have to say, what does Ray Kurzweil think? I saw in some interviews that he believes that everything that surrounds us is a kind of computation. Even if you look at a stone, it's a piece of organized information that exhibits the computation of matter. And of course, we can increase that, let's say, universal methodology of computation and implement it in matter itself, and then we get to computer chips and so on and so forth. Now, this is not just limited to the micro level, but we also start, in a sense, computing the environment by optimizing it. Right now, we would say by making it more human. There's rarely any place on our Earth anymore that wasn't touched and altered by humans. So it is a kind of improvement. Many ecologists would say, well, we actually make the environment worse. But Ray Kurzweil has no doubt that we are set up for a path of improvement. And he thinks that is not only happening as a gradual improvement, it is an exponential improvement. Therefore, the question of what is exponential development is very, very important to Ray Kurzweil. And he believes that we went through different epochs in this universe. And this development, since the creation of the universe, can be regarded as an exponential curve. And we are getting faster and faster in that process. Is this the moment when humans transcend biology, or is it the moment where humans lose themselves to technology? This is possibly the most decisive question for the future of our lives. Therefore, let's dive right into the text and let's read it together. The 6 epochs. Generally spoken, these are the epochs that occur until history ends and we have reached the singularity where the universe is oneness and history itself will not happen anymore because there will be no turns in the development of that singularity. Everything will be predicted. And therefore, in a sense, everything will be simultaneous. Like once the singularity has arrived, history really ends because everything will remain the same. Is this a positive or is this a negative notion? What do you think? You can write that in the comments. That would be certainly interesting to hear your opinion on that. Okay, but let's start with reading. So he starts the text right away with a quote from Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher, a German idealist of the 19th century. And I'm not entirely sure whether Kurzweil is really familiar with his philosophy or whether he just takes this quote as an authoritative proof or because he likes it. Schopenhauer said, everyone takes the limits of his own vision for the limits of the world. And this is certainly a major question of the book. How much can we imagine, can we envision the future? How much can we know what will happen in the future with regard to the singularity? And how much can we predict it? Certainly, many people I've met, they say, no, computers will never be better than human beings. Which I find kind of naive. Now listen, I'm not saying that computers will be better than human beings. Ray Kurzweil claims that. I say he may have empirical evidence, but we don't know whether they will become soul-like substances. That's unclear. But I'm also not denying that that will happen. So we shouldn't have the arrogance right now to deny that that will ever occur, that this possibility may become reality. On the other hand, we have to ask, is it maybe arrogant to claim with certainty that this is going to happen? I think also for this case, we have to be careful. And one thing is, or the most important thing is, that we don't take our understanding and don't think about the limits of our understanding and just claim something. Now, Ray Kurzweil has set himself for the adventure to transcend the limits of our thinking. He really wants to think the occurrence of within our history, namely the occurrence of the exponential improvement of technology, and he wants to think it towards its end. And I think this exercise of thinking beyond the limit of all limits is indeed something that relates him to the German idealist tradition and maybe also to Arthur Schopenhauer. The question, can we think beyond of who we are right now? Can we know what reality really is? And many of you may say, well, of course we know reality. What are you talking about? Like, let's just look outside. Like, you can touch it, you can face it, you can see it, you can feel it. But I say, even if we touch it, we always touch it with our human hand. We always touch it through a subjectively limiting physical body. We always think it with a subjectively limiting mind. And I'm not one of the people who say there is no reality, but I say somebody who claims that he knows reality as it really is. He makes a very bold claim, because I believe it's very hard to distinguish what in our mind is the pure impact of reality and what is the subjective distortion that we add to this problem. So that is what we had to figure out. And you may say, well, this is not an important subject for the text of Ray Kurzweil, but let's look into the text. He says here, I'm not sure when I first became aware of the singularity. Right, the first sentence. It's interesting. Because in math, you might be aware when somebody had taught you 1 + 1 = 2. Maybe not. But maybe you are more aware about the fact when somebody first taught you calculus or statistical methods. You can remember the classes that you have taken on that. But Ray Kurzweil says, no, the singularity, I don't really know when it was first there in my life. I just don't see it that clearly. He says, I'd have to say it was a progressive awakening. Now, if that is not a religious connotation there, right? We are all the woke people living in the singularity. In the almost half century that I've immersed myself in computer and related technologies, I've sought to understand the meaning and purpose of the continual upheaval that I have witnessed at many levels. The continual upheaval. This is like the central word in this sentence. So he has witnessed a tremendous history of technological innovation, which to him occurred as this kind of upheaval. And this has to be taken into account. What does it mean? Are we going to disrupt our lives more and more and more? And where is this going to end? He writes further, gradually I've become aware of a transforming event looming in the first half of the 20th century. So it's there. It started in the first half of the 20th century. And what is that going to be? What is this event that is looming? Just as a black hole in space dramatically alters the pattern of matter and energy accelerating toward its event horizon, this impending singularity in our future is increasingly transforming every institution and aspect of human life, from sexuality to spirituality. And you see I underlined this sentence here. The important thing is that he compares the singularity to a black hole. Of course, in physics, it's quite traditional to call a black hole singularity, but we don't really know what is inside the black hole. We don't really know how it looks like, even though some astronomers have recently provided some pictures of what is going on around a black hole. We haven't really seen it itself. The only thing we have observed were the events that occurred around the black hole. Now, please forgive me if you're a physicist and say, no, we have really seen it. But to my knowledge, it seems that we rather observe whatever is around the thing that is inside a black hole. Is it a thing? Some people claim it's a collapsing star. We can take that picture and now we apply that to the singularity. And see, the idea of Kurzweil is not that he provides an idea of the singularity, but he says it is like a black hole. We can see the objects that are gravitating towards the singularity. We can see how the objects around the singularity behave. And by that, we can assume what the singularity is inside. We can make some predictions what will happen in the future. And maybe we can even get ideas of what the singularity will be. And he claims that everything is accelerating toward that event horizon, the emergence of whatever this singularity is. And he claims too that this will be a completely life-altering, humanity-altering event. Kurzweil claims that the singularity will not only change our surrounding, it will change everything who we are. So if the singularity is like a black hole that we cannot see, he asks, what then is the singularity? And he gives us here a first definition. It's a future period during which the pace of technological change will be so rapid, its impact so deep that human life will be irreversibly transformed. Well, we have already discussed that. And he claims it will be neither utopian nor dystopian. This epoch will transform the concepts that we rely on to give meanings to our lives, from our business models to the cycle of human life, including death itself. And death is maybe one of the major elements, if not the major element, that defines meaning in our life. If there were no death, there would be no hurry. We could do everything tomorrow. Heidegger always says that we understand our lives from the end. Similar to Sartre, who says a book is read with the end in mind. Otherwise, nothing in the book would have meaning. He compares it with a man walking down a street. In our lives, it may not mean something. In a book, we know that is the hero. He will go on an adventure. And at the end, this little story that he walked down the road had a more significant meaning. And we also try to perceive our lives from the end of it, namely from death. Some people say there will be paradise after this ultimate limit. Other people say there will be nothing. So better live your life now to the fullest. But here, Kurzweil says, no, even death itself will transform. Understanding the singularity will alter our perspective on the significance of our past and the ramifications of our future. Let's skip the next sentence and let's just come to this last sentence for now. I regard someone who understands the singularity and who has reflected on its implications for his or her own life as a singularitarian. Yes, singularitarians. And maybe it's easier, maybe we should say singularians. That's who we want to become. I don't know if I want to become a singularitarian. I'm not sure yet whether it's a utopian, dystopian notion or whether it is either of these. I don't know. But singularitarians, they don't know necessarily what the singularity is. I see that for myself too. But they see the effect that this event will have on their lives. No, let me say it differently. This event has already an impact on our lives. We see this tremendous change, and whether it occurs or not, people are actively moving into that direction, and it influences us. And if we accept this impact of the life, of that singularity in our lives, then we can call ourselves singularitarians. Well, are you a singularitarian or not? As I asked before, is that a positive or negative event? Write it in the comments. And if you want to follow this channel in the future, I would be very happy, especially if we could have an active communication about that. So please subscribe. Look into my other channels. I have Twitter accounts, websites, Facebook. I write that in the description. But for now, I hope that you have a nice day and relax. Don't get too stressed out by the singularity. Bye-bye.